Yay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday Night Banter. Well, Friday night for me, it's always a good night to stay in with these three, isn't it? So we'll just call it Friday Banter. So good morning, good evening, good everything, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa Friday Banter with these three amazing women. But before I hand you over to them and say hello, I want to just also again thank our amazing sponsor for tonight's show, Marushka.com, who, if you guys have been watching our previous shows, she's the amazing designer and creator of Marushka.com pure linen wear. And she lives in the Seychelles currently, but her factory is in Cape Town. So she keeps it local for us local people, exports her amazing linen goods all over the world. And I want to just say to her, thank you so much for supporting us, Marushka. Your clothes are incredible and amazing. I own quite a few of them, which I'm not wearing tonight because it's dang chilly. But we will definitely be showing off more of the range as well somewhere during the middle of the conversation. Just a little short clip as our community promotions, supporting our community for everything that is natural, earth friendly, human friendly, animal friendly, people friendly, just made with amazing energy, high vibrating love. And that's what we're about here. So on that note, I want to say welcome and thank you to Jessie, Madison, Carmen, my favorite girls as always, back with us on a Friday as we just catch up with whatever's on our minds and on our hearts. So hello, ladies. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing good.
It's so funny
Yeah.
that the blondes are on the bottom and the brunettes are on the top.
What was that show with the squares? You know that show?
The Brady Bunch.
No, not the Brady Bunch. It was the game show, like in the 70s, and the celebrities were in the squares.
Wasn't it Hollywood Squares?
Was that's probably what it, yeah.
It's Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, Hollywood Squares, but I don't know what edition it would be here.
Yeah, well, as we were saying, COVID Carmen, isn't that your name? Didn't we give you that name for the Carmen? Anyway, so yeah, it is. Maybe it's part of this whole, like a puzzle. If we look at our screen, it's like a pretty puzzle. So we can just put ourselves wherever we like. Maybe Mornay is sitting in the back there listening to us. And yes, you are there, Mornay. The ladies want to know if you're going to be joining. I just put someone in timeout. It was the best feeling. Someone who was calling us negative Nancy's. And if she comes back on here again, I'm putting her in timeout. So who was it? No, she's back in again. I'll have to find her.
Somebody calls you a name before they even listen to the show.
Exactly. It's like, come on. Oh, there she is. Wait, she's going into timeout. Wait, give me a moment.
You can ban them too. That's what I do. I give them
Oh,
one time.
no, just a timeout, like in the corner, Now go. Yeah.
Can you see if they're on timeout? Can they still watch it if they're on timeout?
I think they can watch it.
Comment.
But they can't comment.
Oh, okay.
You have to listen to us, but you can't see us.
I'm sorry. This is just me getting my little back every now and again. But mostly I have to say thank you so much to our viewers. Honestly, generally we get amazing comments and support and love and encouragement. And I want to just say I really made a mental note of it this week as well. Just to say to you guys, thank you so much for your amazing comments and support. I don't think you guys realize how much that actually means. I wish I had the time to reply to each comment personally, but in my heart I do. So thank you for those who really support, because it keeps us going, it keeps us positive, it keeps us connected, and that's really what it's all about, isn't it? Right? Yeah. So what we're going to chat about, I just thought would be a great idea just for each of us to bring something to the table that's on our heart. I think it's such a good time just to talk about whatever we're feeling, whatever's going on, and just bring it to the table. See if our viewers want to join in the conversation. If they have some input, we can bring that in as well. So,
or they go on timeout.
Yeah, but remember, you're going to get put in timeout very quickly if you don't behave. But anyway, okay, well, I'm going to hand over to you, Jess, since you're my fellow brunette here.
Well, all right. I really don't have a topic, but I was saying, before this that I had somebody this week when I was doing the Q&A for my live filming. People are always asking all sorts of questions and they want to know, intel information. But rarely do people ever ask questions about me personally. And even those that help out and I'll just say, really try to invest a lot of time in my ministry, most of them always feel like I'm just too busy to actually even engage me in conversation about, me personally. So I thought that would be a fun one to open up with. And then I was thinking, well, do we have people ask questions and we answer from our childhood, or do we have the adult talk? I don't know.
Well, I think what you said was actually very interesting because you mentioned that you'd met someone who mentioned that everyone is always asking you about what you know and your knowledge and stuff like that. And absolutely. And that also struck me in that moment, because I think so many people pick your brain for your knowledge. But what's your favorite food, Jess? And that was the question. So I think those are such relevant topics as well. What do you like to do on a Sunday afternoon? How do you hang? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite outfit? Do you enjoy just hanging out at the pool, or do you enjoy nature? That sort of thing. I think that's so important because that really speaks to the soul, right?
Or what's relaxing, things like that. Absolutely.
So,
well, what is your favorite food and color?
I would like to share it, out with it.
According to my children, I eat too much of it. They're sick of it, but my favorite food is probably chicken wings, and it's all about the sauce. I have a secret sauce that I don't give the recipe out to, but it's very addicting. So everybody that I've made chicken wings for, they're like, "What's that sauce?" So that's probably my favorite is chicken wings and then turkey and gravy. And again, it's all about the gravy. You can't have turkey without gravy. So that's my favorite. What was the other one besides the food? Oh, favorite colors? Probably purple and gray, kind of a mix between the two. I like them both.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know you were a fellow purple girl. You are so good at hiding that, madame. Me, I exploit my purple. I'm flash it. I'm loud and proud with my purple.
See, but there's the difference, Chantelle. Like I want to have my favorite color, but I don't want to show it off, or I don't think I look good in it either. So I don't want everybody in the world to know necessarily.
That's very interesting. Well, it's good to know that, Jess. So we'll keep that in mind next time
I hate the flashy things, I don't usually wear bright colors. Like I love the color red too, but I don't wear that often because I feel like I'm like, wah, 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 like advertising myself to the world, and I like to be behind the scenes. But
I saw you actually when was it you wearing a red top not too long ago? It really looked good, I have to say.
Yeah, I worked for the Spanish translation of my course. So I wore red for the whole day. That was a huge endeavor. Usually I'll make it maybe an hour and then gotta change, but I wore it for the whole day.
That was fun.
Wow, you're stepping out.
Don't ask this stuff though, because I'm like bored right now.
It's like when you go on dates and you're like, what's this? No, just tell me all your drama. How crazy are you? What's your credit score? What's in your bank account? Like, let's just get there and then.
I like those questions better, Madison.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with that. Carmen, we want to know, how crazy are you on a score of 1 is not very crazy, 10 is you're just off your rocker.
Let's just say I could be found doing very bizarre things by myself.
Okay.
Bizarre equal crazy? I don't know. Let's define here what is bizarre.
The cutest video of this little girl on a playground, and she takes this dinosaur thing that you're supposed to ride, and she takes it, pulls it, and it starts dancing, and then she starts copying it, and I'm like, okay, that's me. That's me when I'm by myself.
I can well imagine that. Actually, I can well imagine that would be something that you would definitely do. Wow.
Was the dinosaur your favorite color, Carmen?
Camouflage is my favorite color.
What did you say? I didn't hear that. What was your favorite color?
Camouflage.
I love it.
I like leopard print too.
I can see the leopard print, Carmen. I've got some ideas for that leopard print.
Jessie, you're the reason I still wear it, because I got a lot of crap for wearing animal print because it was anti-survivor, and you gave me permission. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I don't have a problem with animal print.
I don't either. I didn't know that was anti-survivor. That must have been the survivor that had some trauma with animal print.
I mean,
wow.
Not making fun of the survivor, just say.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Also,
Jessie,
Madison. Oh, go
carry
ahead.
on. Sorry.
What?
No,
My
no,
favorite
go.
color?
Madison, give her crazy.
Oh, I'm sure everyone, my kids and everyone would say crazy off to 10. Like, and favorite color, orange. Always been orange.
Wow.
You have a bright personality. I can see that.
Yeah.
When I was little, I loved purple, and then I grew into orange, and now I'm like literally obsessed with white, which I don't think technically is a color, but
It is color.
there you go.
White
must
is
say,
ironically the
Yeah.
combination of every color.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the spectrum.
I must say, white is definitely creeping up onto my favorite colors list as well. So now, Jess, let's take the spotlight off you for 3 seconds, because I can see it's getting too easy there for you. So we'll come back with some cute little curveballs in just a bit. So Carmen, you're up next. What's on your heart? What would you like to bring to the table today?
And I just want the subscribers to know that Chantelle just sprung this on us. So
I was like, wait.
if I would have been asked this ahead of time, I would have come with something good. But I think right now, I think tolerance is something that is really on my heart. And when I first was learning and coming out into my own power and authority, what I realized is my lack of tolerance was off the charts. And I think when you've been a victim of anything, you have a lot of triggers. And so I think there's no better time than right now for all of us to have a tolerance that's higher and a grace that is bigger. Yesterday, or the day before, I posted on Twitter, I thought the most hilarious thing I'd ever seen in a while. And it was like the Wicked Witch from the West, or in The Wizard of Oz, and she's riding a bike, when she's like after, Dorothy, and like she's mad at everything, and she's riding down that road. And it says the original Karen on it.
The original Karen.
I thought it was so hilarious. And so I posted it, and it wasn't like 15 minutes. And somebody goes, yeah, it's really funny unless your name is Karen. And it was some girl named Karen, and I felt horrible. And I didn't even respond to her because I'm like, I'm at a loss because, I have cousins named Karen. I have friends named Karen. Like, they're not mad at me for this joke. And so I really started thinking, like, how important is it that we are able to laugh at ourselves? Like when we were younger, and Chantelle, you could probably, you know, agree with this, like that there's that Clint Eastwood movie, I think it's called like El Camino, or it's some kind of car, Gran Torino. And he is literally brutal to every single type of person. It didn't matter if you were Black, Hispanic, what it was. He had nasty things to say about you. And I actually really loved that movie because it was the way I grew up. We all grew up making fun of whatever the other person was, and it created kind of a thick skin. And I think our skin is like paper thin right now. And I just want to encourage people to, you know, if you get hurt by something, all it's telling you is there's some darkness in your field that is being activated for you to either fix something that's happening in the world, or for you to fix something that's happening within you. And so that would be my kind of contribution for today with Off the Top, just tolerance. You know, and I'm really thankful for your sponsor, because quite frankly, it's a lot of work to do what we do, and it is such a blessing to have a sponsor. I got my first one a couple months ago, to do a summer thing, and it's really been very helpful. And I love linen clothes, so I'm totally going to check it out.
Yeah, I must say, thank you for that. She's amazing. Really creates amazing stuff, and from the heart and with absolute integrity. So it's a beautiful way to, as I said, just, you know, showcase the things that are in line and in harmony with who we are and what we stand for. So it's really great. But I love your topic, Carmen, on tolerance, because Morna and myself were actually on Catherine Edwards' show earlier on, and we were talking about not the same thing, but something similar. And Morna actually said something which was very, very profound. And he said, you know, until we don't overcome our differences, we've got to learn how to overcome our differences, and then unify and work together. And I think that's kind of like where we're at right now, where we've had so much splitting, especially in the last 2 years. But before that, it's been this whole mass consciousness, you know, going on. We've understood it. But we know that now, you know. So now that we are aware of that, we can change it. So we know now that divide and conquer is their strategy, right? So as you know, so now we know that. So as we then, yes, Carmen again, sorry, she's just popped out. So as we understand that that's what they've been doing for so long, through all their tactics, do the opposite of that. Everything, the opposite. That's one thing I've learned, is that we know that God is the creator and only God can create. And Satan, or Lucifer, I think it's the same thing in my opinion anyway, emulates. So they'll take everything and split it and turn it upside down. So all we got to do is turn it right way up and beat them at their own game. Simple. Everything they tell us to do, everything that's been indoctrinated into us, we've got to do the opposite of now. So, and that's, I think, where the tolerance comes in, because that intolerance has been so inbred into us, right, over the number for so long. So what does love your neighbor really mean? Do we actually sit and, you see, for me, that's the Bible teachings. It's understanding what the true essence of the meaning is and living it, acting on it, not fighting about it. This, I think, is where so many people get caught up in the trap of fighting about things and creating big differences because of splitting and separation, divide and conquer. So for me, it's about really understanding that, what does it mean to love your neighbor? But you can't love your neighbor unless you love yourself. And you can't love yourself unless you know God.
It's the truth.
So the first thing is to get to know God, and that's the spiritual step. So now, what does it mean to get to know God? It means to love your neighbor. So if it means literally walking across the road and saying, "Hi, I'm Chantelle. I'm your neighbor. If you need anything, I'm here." Or it could literally mean your family, your children, your neighboring country. And I think this is where it begins, where we learn how to transcend the intolerance, because it's such a big thing right now.
Yeah.
So if you feel intolerant, turn it upside down and become tolerant. That's simple.
Chantelle, you showed up on my show with Doreen Virtue and Madison, and you were in the chat the whole time. You are not a Christian. You were beautiful. She let me make her a moderator. She was getting rid of the religious spirits in there.
I love it.
I'll put the time out.
Platform neighbor. And I mean, that's tolerance. And here's the thing, you can only stand in that if you know who you are. You can't stand in it if you don't know who you are, you know?
Yeah. I think that for me, you know, honestly, I certainly don't say I'm tolerant of everything. There are many things I'm intolerant of, but I understand it and I know what it is. And when I am intolerant
about, let's get to the juicy stuff.
I don't want to earn it.
Let's get this party started.
You caught me off guard there, Carmen Studio.
I'll be like,
I have intolerance of, I think people will see in the chat, definitely. When people speak crap in my ears, honestly, and they judge me by their standards and they think that I've got to do what they tell me to do, I have no tolerance of that. I don't even have patience. So maybe that's where I need to learn how to just sit back, chew on my words for 3 more minutes before I say something. That's the kind of stuff I'm definitely intolerant of. It's like, get over yourself. If you haven't understood what I'm saying to you, then buzz off. And it's not that I feel like that with everyone. I think everyone, we need to learn from each other. But it's like, go away. And I know that is a mistake, and I have a very sharp tongue.
Madison's like, yeah.
I definitely have a sharp tongue. When I'm like angry, I have to walk away because I can literally cut you with my words, like just, and it'll hurt like that. So I have to walk away. Like when I'm in an argument or anything, I'm like, let me just walk away and calm down. But that's like people have it. It's like my intolerance for people are people that don't tell the truth. It's like if you're gonna try to get attention and lie to get attention, then I have an issue with that because it's like. It's happened to me over the past couple of weeks. I have an intolerance for it. It's just not okay. And lying about people on heinous things I have an issue with. I have a huge issue with. And these people, like, we have to either stand together or we're separated. And so we can't like walk the line on one way or the other, especially when people are not being truthful and they're lying. So
I agree. Truth is so important. You know, I mean, and I know Jesus says as well, the truth shall set you free. And it really is, you know, for me as well. And I think I'm particularly dealing with that with certain situations in my life at the moment as well, where there's a lot of things being said, accusations being made. I'm going, no, not at all. So there's a lot of that. And it's I think for me as well, it's about, whereas I'd usually lash back in a certain way, I would need to sit back, and I do. Actually, and I think that is what, I'm not sure Jess, how do you feel about that? I mean, when we talk about tolerance, intolerance, what is it for you? It's actually an interesting topic. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a very interesting topic. And I think I'm always looking at whole situations, and a lot of times, I see how we have these harassers that like to take things that could be, statements that could be taken many different directions. And they like to then focus on just the negative or the bad things, or they'll throw twists in there. So when people, I see them using a lot of these things with people who are what I call wishy-washy, where, one minute, if everybody's supporting somebody, they're all on board on supporting that individual. But the moment they think there's a taint or a mark in somebody, then they're all on board against that person. And they'll go back and forth, and it drives me crazy because it's like, you know, who are we and who are these people that, if we claim to support and stand with somebody, that means the good or the bad. We have to be able to wade through the rough waters to really discern somebody's heart, to know where things are. And for me, that's like the hardest thing, is that, growing up in this Luciferian world, with the Brotherhood, there are so many people who carry that light of being good, but really, in fact, they don't. They're not good. They don't really love God. They don't have a relationship with God. And those are the people that come to the forefront of those looking the most pious and the best. And that's who others compare us to. And it really makes me mad, that people don't take the time to really gauge others' hearts. They don't take time to wrestle through the problems. Um, you know, some of these people, I've been wrestling through these problems, with their where things are at for over, 35, 38 years. Um, and I haven't given up on those individuals yet, but sometimes we have to be willing to get our feet dirty, and so for me, that's something, when people, or when they take things that are good and make it seem evil, you know. There was a lot of people, I'm an open book. I like to share my life openly. A lot of people took advantage of that, during this past year, and use those things that were, freely given in confidence and trust, and then use those things, twisted them, made them ugly, turned them against me. I just have no tolerance for that.
I'll have a question for you, Jessie, because I love you. I mean, and we put our life out here, right? And like, we have a lot of people that harass us. You
Yeah.
see Timothy Homestead calling me a trafficker. You've said to me, we've had private conversations, you and I, and I'm only bringing this up because people always say that we hate each other and everything else. And
Yeah,
like,
we
have
don't.
private
Yeah.
conversations. No. So I'm like, let's bring it up here so people can totally just have it out here, because we're not going to fight or argue. We've had this conversation privately. Why do you support him? I mean, he's calling me a trafficker. I'm not a trafficker. I've now since filed a lawsuit against him.
Right.
And so, the fact that you're supporting him and raising money for him, like, to me, it's like, how horrible it is to be lied about and harassed about. And you're supposed to be my friend, but you're supporting this person who is saying heinous things about me. It's confusing. It really is, especially because I'm a loyal and loving friend.
Yeah.
And I'll let you answer.
That is confusing. Yeah. But no, I think there's, two sides to that coin. And I address that also with individuals connected to him, because the things that they took, there's stuff that I can't talk about yet, that I think is in the background. And so, I want to ask for discovery. I want to ask for that stuff to be brought forward. And I think that that's where some of the connections, some of the confusing parts are coming out, is that, that there's so much more to the story. And, my petition to them was that, hey, if you're bringing out stuff, if you're making those claims, because I know you, because I believe you, and, you know, I don't see anything bad that you're doing, I think that the accountability is on other lines for people that are saying stuff about you, that they need to bring out the rest of where that's coming from. And
Well, don't
I
you think
don't
that
know how to
Timothy is,
fully address that yet, but I think that it's highly communication. I think that
but
in order
Timothy
for
won't communicate to me. He won't communicate and talk to me. And my confusion
Yeah.
also is, you love David straight. He's accusing two people that you love and care about, and he has absolutely zero evidence of it. David has also been very overprotective of Timothy and made sure, and now he's turning around and
right,
calling him a
again,
trafficker
it's the
right
same
now.
thing. It's the same thing, that there's stuff that's being brought out that the fullness of it is not being brought out. So what do I see that fullness of? In your situation, I think that there's full evidence that people who, and not you, people who are claiming to be good Christians are rescuing children, and they're doing so without documenting, they're doing so without accountability, and they're doing so without, you know, any ramifications. And so, you know, some of those people are directly working for light side of the system members who have remained hidden, who have, you know, now been named, and who need to be held to account. So how do they create a system where now everybody can be, you know, if they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart, where the good Samaritans are covered and not being looped in with all those who are just re-trafficking? So that's part of the issue with that. With DLS, you know, I care about that man deeply. I don't believe anything negative about him. I've never had any negativity from him. Yet there are direct things that he has said that I've brought forward about the light side of the system. So how do people distinguish themselves from that light side? How do, you know, they draw that line? You know, in order for that truth about the light side to be brought out, anybody who's in connection with them, that has to come forward too, even if they're indirectly working with them. Um, you know, so it's kind of a hard thing, because how can the proof and the evidences and the discovery be brought out if we can't safely bring out the whole story?
Well, my question is, do you think you have a right? Like, first of all, I've never had anyone ask me what my process is other than Carmen on a show a few weeks ago, and in private, of what my process is in
Right.
rescuing these children. You've never asked me that. Do you think you have a right
I
to
have
these
not.
kids? Okay, well, I mean, and I'm just
I
asking.
don't. I'm not in it for the kids at all.
I want to
My thing is, I want to make sure that, you know, that policies, procedures, accountability is being done. And I believe it's not even a right, it's just a belief that we need to have these things in place. And
Where's your accountability, though, Jessie?
who?
Where's your accountability when it comes to two people that you love and care about, and you say you believe and you that we are not doing this, but then there's this man over here and you're protecting and raising money for him? We're all accountable for our actions. My question to you is, where's your accountability on this particular situation? Because we can go around circles all day long. And I understand the art of war, but I know for a fact that Timothy is not on any task force or anything like that, and that he has sold himself out to the wrong side of the system. And maybe you don't know that yet, but I'm going to say it here publicly. And he's attacking the people that truly are helping children. And I risk my life daily. I could be in a cush job making, you know, 120 to 160 a year, depending on what job I had as a recruiter. I don't do that. I took a job to go rescue these kids. And it's discouraging when we love each other and we're on this side together, and then you're like supporting this person that's attacking me. It's really kind of frustrating, especially because it's not just one person. He's also attacking David's wife. I mean, who's next? Like, if he gets mad at you, is he gonna attack you next? Like, you know, because we'll protect you. We'll be like, she's not doing that. Like, what the heck? You know what I mean? So I guess, you know, we're all accountable. Where's your accountability?
My accountability is simply this, that, you know, I have gone to the full extent of my ability to bring forward my testimony at the highest levels. I believe that that's really what this fight is about, that we have light side of the system members that are trying to hinder and prohibit that testimony from going forward. So I'm going to stay with my testimony because, you know, it includes the evidences and testimonies of others as well. And if we are not all together, then there will be no accountable action. There will be nobody who is tried or found guilty. And, you know, I have to stay with that. So, you know, people know where I stand, and I'm going to freely draw that line and say, you know, I know all three people to be good individuals. Do I agree with what they're doing? No. Have I addressed them about it? Yes. You know, and I'm going to just stay in that space because to me, you know, if there is no judicial accountability at that higher level, then everything all of us have fought for is lost. We're not going to win.
But
so somebody has to take on the light side of the system.
But what we're fighting for, Jessie, you and I, we fought so hard, right? Like, you went through horrific things as a child. So did I. And we're speaking out against these horrible things that have happened. And we have someone coming on and threatening not only your voice, other people's voices that are doing right. And then there's other things here that this man is doing to people that are horrific. Stalking, sending pictures of myself to David. Like, it's disgusting. And anyone that think that that's okay, one, you're watching porn because you pulled up my porn and you're watching it. So if you're sending these pictures to someone, you're watching the porn, and it's not okay. He's not on any light side of the system. He is over here on the dark side, and I worry about you in this situation because he is not on this side of good, and no one should be protecting him. And it questions of like, why are we protecting this person? And my question to you have you had a physical conversation with him, like a Zoom like this, in the past 6 months? Do you know this man is alive?
Well, I'm not going to answer any of those questions, but I feel like you didn't hear anything that I said. And I said what was most important.
I did hear you.
And I'm going to again reiterate, I know we've talked about this behind the scene. You know where I stand in relation to you. You also know that there's reasons I stand with others as well. And right now I'm going to stay in that neutral ground because that's where I have to stay. But that's all I'm going to say about that. So,
okay. Yeah. And I want to just say, I so appreciate these difficult conversations. I really do.
Me too.
And I know that neither Jessie or Madison are in an easy position right now. I absolutely see that. I appreciate that. And I'm so grateful. I'm sitting here. And even though it is a tough conversation and probably an awkward conversation, especially live, I mean, you guys are getting it firsthand out there. There's no recording and editing and buffering, anything that's being said here at the moment. But I appreciate the fact that we as 4 strong women can sit here tonight and hold the space for each other, because I think on some level, all of us are going through something similar. So I know that wherever we're at right now is very, very challenging, and not just in America, in Camp America. I promise you, in Camp Australia, there's a lot of stuff going on as well, very similar. So I really think this is such a time of discernment and just going back into the heart and just remembering what this is all about. But Carmen, I would love to hear from you as
Well,
well.
let me say
What you
this real
have
quick
in.
because I don't want to end it like that. I want people to know that I love Jessie very much. And people constantly ask us if we hate each other, if we're fighting. We're not fighting. One thing that I did learn was always go to the source. So I always go to Jessie and have a conversation, or she has a conversation with me. I did not tell her I was going to ask her this publicly. I think I was just like a subject to bring up. And people keep asking me if her and I are fighting or hate each other. We're not. And I'm sure we'll have a conversation after this offline privately. I'm sure she wants to say whatever, she can say it privately and it'll be between us, whatever. But I just like people to understand we as grown women can have tough conversations even in public because we have put our lives out there. And sometimes you need, sorry, my dog is like, sounds like he's dying, he's crying. But I want to, yeah, it's like, isn't it great, wants to get out. But I just wanted to be very clear that there's no hatefulness here and that grown women can have adult conversations. And that's, so I hope you know I love you, Jessie. I really do.
I do. Same on my end.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And all I was going to say when I was trying to interrupt is I want to relish this moment because quite frankly, this is what Chantelle and I deal with and behind the scenes. And it's very refreshing to see you two be able to have this conversation. It literally nearly brings me to tears. And here's what I hear Jessie saying. I hear Jessie saying, and I could be wrong, I hear Jessie saying that there are weeds in the garden and that we have to let the fruit grow and cut the weeds later. But I could be wrong, but that's what I'm hearing.
That's a pretty good take, but or it'd be better to say that there's, a bunch of exotic plants in the garden that have decided to grow big and voluptuous. But in order to, if you cut all the exotic plants at the same time, you cut the good plants as well. And in order to get the full fruit, you aren't able to cut all the voluptuous weeds right now. But it's also trying to, really say that maybe the things that people think are the weeds might not be. And that was not a comment about Timothy. But just that there's so much more to the story. And if we really want, freedom for these kids, which Madison and I, we fight for tooth and nail, putting our lives on the line every day for these kids to not have to experience what either of us have experienced. In order for that true freedom, there's more that has to be done. And, we really do need support on all ends, both of us. And we need, I'm tired of the wishy-washy people, 1 minute are like, I love Madison, and the next moment, she's horrible and, she's a liar. And no, none of that is true. Madison hasn't changed. She's been the same person when she first came out with her testimony as she is now. And, and on a good note, Madison, I just love, I love watching all that the Lord's done in your life and seeing how, you don't withhold your testimony. You bring that out in the fullness. And that's really where the power of our stories comes from, is that we live in that resurrection power that, we died with Christ. We were redeemed. We were raised to life out of that darkness, out of that horrific life. And out of that, the Lord's given us new life. And it's that new life that comes through the power of the resurrected Lord that we fight for. So I love seeing that in you.
We definitely haven't changed. That's for sure. I think I've grown up a lot, Carmen and I talk about it of just, we're all growing and we all need to grow. And I appreciate that. Yeah. I just know in this war, sometimes you have to like cut off the head quickly before it grows and takes over the good that's going on, because the evils ran this world for so long that like we're all here trying to change that and change it to where God does have authority over the land, and this is God's land. Every place we step right now, every place where all of us are sitting, everybody in the comments, that is God's land, and we have to make sure that we are walking in that truth and walking in the utmost, like, and that's why I love all of you ladies here, because that's what we do, is we walk in it. And yeah, it's, you know, we're all growing, we're all learning, you know, I'm learning too, and I'm learning to grow in relationships and friendships. And, you know, I just want the good, you know, and this war is tiring and it's exhausting, and we just don't have time for the liars that are coming out and lying. I don't care what the end result is, because the end result right now is I have children and they're going to grow up and see things that are posted online and see these lies. And the same thing, you have children as well, and they're going to see these lies. And, you know, I don't want to have to explain to them that this is just a horrible person and people protected him because it was a war. No, F that. Like, we're not protecting people anymore that are evil. Like, let's cut them out. Let's be done. And let's move on to the side of good. And like, you know, if you have a need, Jessie, any need whatsoever, tell all of us. We will post it and be like, let's help her get whatever she needs, because I do know that they've come to your work prior when you've had a job, and that they've harassed you to the point where it's been horrible. So if you have a need, tell us and let's help you get it, because you deserve blessings as well. And, you know, you're doing everything for everyone else. What can we do for you? You know?
On that note, we're going to take an ad break. So we're just going to take an ad break, take a breath, and we're just going to see some of Mariuszka's beautiful clothing. Yay!
Hey, we're missing
That's
one.
so. Jess said she could only be in for an hour. So she did mention that when she joined initially. So please, guys, nothing funny. She did mention to just to all our viewers, Jessie didn't pop. She mentioned to me already when we set up the date that she could only make an hour. And she reminded me in the beginning of the meeting. So she's needed to go. But I so appreciate this beautiful, beautiful conversation. Madison, thank you for being so straightforward. You know, what I love about this is just that so many women don't feel like they have a voice, and that we've got to keep quiet to preserve another's feelings. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes we've got to choose our words carefully, and it's not what we say, but how we say it. But what I love here is that the two of you, because I am such fans of both of yours. I mean, I know both your stories, and it's just so amazing that you've come together. And I mean, yeah, Carmen and I as well, you know. really loving what you guys are doing and so supportive of that, and that you can speak your speak live for the world with confidence. And I really hope that so many people learn from this conversation tonight, because I think it's so important. Carmen, I'd love your opinion. Sorry I interrupted you earlier.
No, it's good. I just, I really think it's important, and I wish Jessie was here to witness what I'm saying, because, you know, and I hope she wouldn't think I was ganging up on her, but I do think we have to remember, Chantelle, you and I have talked about this. You have no history in you know, the bloodline families. I have no history in the bloodline families. Our gardens don't have very many weeds. Now, Madison, she had a lot of weeds in hers, but she, like she said to Jessie, her way of handling them is ripping them out by the root ahead of time. Jessie, for some reason, feels that she needs to do it different. Her garden is weird. You know, she has that bloodline garden that, you know, has a lot of exotic and bizarre things in it. And I do think in some ways that makes her more qualified than anyone to handle her garden. But in other ways, it could be a little bit scary to people like us that don't understand the garden, that have never been there. And also, she's taught us to be very wary. So we're doing the very thing that she's taught us to do, is to question people in the bloodline families, and that there are people who appear as light when they're dark. And so I think to be able to do what Madison did, few people would do that. And I feel like, you know, she made it really clear that she couldn't go there. But I also think it's tough to be able to, I think you're in a tough situation as Jessie to question where somebody else is, but then to have the convenience of saying, I can't share what my story is. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I want you to be accountable to everything that I'm questioning, and then, but you can't question mine. And I just, to me, and this is where I'm more like Madison. I'm more like, let's just make this simple, you know. But I also do give room for, God is ineffable. He is unexplainable, and he works in ways we cannot understand. And I think the same religious spirit can come out in the warrior spirit, where you can expect too much of your type of warfare in someone else's life.
Well, that's the one thing in war, like we can't expect, you know, I can't expect her to understand everything I'm doing. I can't expect to understand everything she's doing. And the same thing with Chantelle and Carmen. Like, you guys have shows, like, you know, topics or whatever. Maybe I don't agree. Maybe I do. I don't, you know what I mean? But it's not my job to question that, right? I think I question when it comes to an attack on someone's character, especially as heinous when it comes to human trafficking, because it is so horrible and we've survived so much. And then to see, like, it's mentally exhausting going and doing this. So for someone to accuse you of that because I endorsed becoming a state national, because I studied, it wasn't like, oh, I just like David and Bobby Lawrence, and so I'm going to just endorse them. It was, no, I took time off of law school to study what they were saying, just because I wanted to know, like, is this the truth of America and what's going on? And I'm like, okay, this is the truth. This is like what people need to do to get out of the system. We're all in a war in Africa, South Africa, in Australia, here in America. Like, we're all trying to do our best, but I just, you know, I'm done. And I'm not saying Jessie's doing this at all. I'm just done being walked all over. And I think that, you know, every single person, every show I'm on expects me to be accountable, expects me to defend myself. And no one asks me the questions where they're telling me they want me to be accountable. And I'm just done doing it. I'm risking my life. And God's told me that my heart, my mission, and my war is to go and get these children and to share my testimony. People can receive it or not. God's my defender. And I wake up every day, Ephesians 6, and I put on the breastplate of righteousness. And that includes truth and walking in truth every single day, because I never want to live in that utter part for those few months and was living a life of lies all over the place. I will never live that again. I won't. And I won't let anyone take my peace away either.
You know what's beautiful about that is I think a lot of people don't understand that because, and this is what I say as well, about people tend to judge others by their own standards. So, I think, Madison, someone like yourself who really has been in that industry, you've come out, and honestly, you are so one of the people I admire because I I honestly, I mean, I consider myself a strong person, but gosh, how would I have been had that been me? And I look at you, you've got this vibrant innocence about you. That's the word I found earlier. It's like this youthfulness that they've never been able to break, ever, no matter what they've subjected you to. And I see that shining through in what you do and how you do it. And I just want to say how much I admire that because despite the shit you come up against, and wow, I have seen how people have tried to bring you down. And kudos to you. Kudos to you because I just think, especially the industry you've been in, it has where women are so horrifically subjected to the worst degradation ever. And the men subjecting that are the ones you're now calling out. They never ever expected you to do that. And you could only do it with a amazing panache that you're doing it because you have this beautiful spirit of courage. And that's what I see. So
You're like making me teary eyed. Yvonne, who I lived with when I got out of jail, and I've talked about her in my testimony when she did the fashion shows. She has always said to me, since you were a little girl, because she's one of the very few that knew me when I was a little girl, and she's always said, you have this innocence about you. You've always had it, and they've never stolen it completely. They stole some of it. She's like, that's like the rough edges around. She goes, but there's this innocence. And so that makes me teary eyed because someone that, I love and respect and has known me and stood up to my family and said, no, like she needs a place of rest and she's coming to my house. She's resting. God told me bring her. And I serve God and love God today because of this woman. And she has said that to me throughout all of my years of life. I mean, and I've known her since I was, 6, 7 years old. I mean, I was little, so.
So good. Maria says the same thing. She says, I just see such beauty and angelic presence and same, she used the same word, youthful. She has this amazing, like fun teenager side to her that's so cool too. But I do want to just say something else. Jessie was kind of put on the spot and I thought she handled it amazing and like a complete champ. And I also want to say that it is because of Jessie that I have the Christian faith that I have. And I want everyone to know that no one person is 100% good and no person is 100% bad. And I think we have to really try to nurture the beauty and the good and snuff out the bad, but to do so the way she did it, is good. And we don't know her reasons, and we have to look at everything else that she's done, and there's a lot of good fruit there.
Absolutely. And I also want to say, I think it's so important for people not to get caught up in what is going on. I mean, earlier on today, as I said earlier, Morna and I were on Catherine Edwards' show where we spoke about a similar sort of thing, basically talking about what are the real solutions. We talk about you got to be in your spiritual alignment and what have you, and really in that way practice discernment, become sovereign. No one is coming to save you. You're there to step out of your own mess in your own way, sure, with people holding your hand, no doubt, but you have to step out yourself, right? So I really think that so much of what's happening in our truther community, so to speak, and even the overcomer/survivor community, there's a lot of triggering going on. And honestly, I want to say to our viewers out there, what's also come through to me in recent days, because I sit with this on my heart and I pray a lot, you know. You guys have become my family. I'm so part of this that it's so important for me personally to see people heal. I love that. I'm a healer. So it's really about understanding that a lot of this is created to distract you. So these guys are going to create division, and it's part of their distraction. And what we really also need to be looking at right now is the tough stuff on the reality level, such as, you know, I'm not one that preaches doom and gloom, but I am saying, let's be real, let's be practical. For 2 years now, we've been sitting, seeing how these guys for decades and decades have been showing us in symbolism all the time what they're doing. We've turned a blind eye, and that's why this trafficking of children, of women, of men, of everyone has been able to happen, right? Because we haven't taken note. So what we need to do now is we need to see what they're doing. And really the next step is food shortages. If we're looking at the way that the petrol or gas, what you guys call it, we call it petrol, prices are increasing, food prices, food increase and prices and shortages are imminent. It's being predicted. So now let's put God's word into action. Love thy neighbor. What does that mean? Stop fighting with your neighbors. If you're on any Facebook or Telegram or any group that beats someone down, you are part of the problem.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's perfect.
I don't care how guilty you think that person is. I don't care how much proof you have. By you carrying on like that, you are creating the problem. That's exactly what the controllers want. They want us to fight with each other. So step out of that. Love thy neighbor. Fix what's happening in your heart. Fix what needs to be fixed in your home, with your children, with your family. Healing starts at home. Then look to your neighbors in your community. How can we trade food? How can we share a veggie patch? How can we grow herbs? How can we do this? How can we make food? How can we swap clothing? How can we make clothing? You know, this is what we need to do now, guys. We've disconnected for so long, and there's so much fighting going on. And that's what these people want.
Yeah.
Don't give it to them. Everything that they're telling us to do the opposite of.
Yeah.
Really?
It's so true.
Turn the hourglass upside down. You use their own tricks against them. Sure, the internet is AI and everything, but it's wonderful to have the internet to meet you girls. Use the internet for good. Use their own shit against them. Simple as that. Use it for good. And the one thing that we've lost is our connection to nature. Nature creates, nature grows, nature is alive. How many of us eat packet food, bought food, all the time, this cardboard food? Now, that's going to go. And if you've gotten used to eating that, I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
So you've got to go and plant potatoes, learn how to grow a veggie and nurture a veggie garden. Learn how to grow. It's a beautiful experience, growing and eating your own food. We've got to get back to that. This is what we need to do. So let's stop fighting with each other.
Yes.
Let's get practical, and let's put God's word into action. Love thy neighbor. And do it. Act on it. That's what I say. That's how we're going to stop fighting. Rise above our differences of what religion you are, what mother language you speak, how many times you've been to jail, or whether you've been a prostitute or a stripper I don't stop that nonsense.
Yeah.
Mothers, we feel each other, right?
Yes.
Your child is my child. That's the way I see it. If your child needs help, I'll be there. It's simple. And I think if we just extend that to everyone out there, put down your warring armor. Just link hands, link arms. Let's do it. That's how we're going to get through this. Because we know that they've got horrible plans. The controllers have horrible plans for the future, for us. Now, whether they get into fruition or not depends on us. No one is saving us. We've got to stand up for ourselves and do it. This is what the reality of the situation is right now, right? I don't know what you girls say about that.
I agree with you. That's why I talk to people about being a state national, because if you hurt here in America, they're money, and that's how we all do. We go after what's rightfully ours. But then the people that are in the state national community, they're doing everything you're saying. They are starting communities, teaching people how to plant gardens and how to maintain, like, living as if we were going to live off the land like we used to. And so and they're getting, each person is bringing something else to the table, whether it's cattle or chickens or goats or whatever it is. And then there will be the people that say, okay, I'm going to teach you how to plant in every weather source, wherever you're at. And so I always direct people, and it's funny because people always say, I don't want to go follow them because of this. I'm like, okay, take away whatever they believe. They can teach you. Do you know how to plant a garden? You don't? Follow them to just plant the garden. You don't have to listen to all the other stuff if you don't agree with what they believe religiously or whatever. Just learn something educational wise. But people are so, like you said, they want us fighting. I feel like here in America, they're coming after the middle class. So they want all of us fighting together. And if we just stop fighting, come together, no matter what we believe, here all of us in every country have one common enemy, and that common enemy is the government. So let's start learning how to be successful without them. And then we take them out by not supporting them financially and learning how to do these things on our own. We take them out one by one. So
absolutely.
We could take them out if we would just everyone homeschool. It'd be done. They can't keep it going if they don't have education.
That's where everyone should do, like, a protest. Take your kids, even if you can't. Like, most people have vacation on their jobs. Take a week vacation, and everybody. The first week of school is coming up in every state. It's either the second to last week of August, the last week of August, or the week right after Labor Day. If people for those 3 weeks could just keep their kids out of school and didn't take them for the first week, we would say, this is what we're demanding. They change it pretty quickly.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it is, I want people to understand too, how, and Chantelle and I have talked about this a lot, how it is such unusual times. We are going to publicly mess up. We're going to publicly make mistakes. When you're growing and you're learning live, you are putting yourself out there in such big ways. And so Jessie and Madison and Chantelle and I all are in this, and everybody watches everything, which actually is good in a lot of ways, because see, we get feedback, and when we're not getting a-hole feedback, we're getting really good feedback, and people are asking us important questions or sharing with us behind the scenes things that they aren't sharing, publicly. And so we have a little tight line that's very similar to what Jessie described. But it is hard to continue to love somebody that doesn't support you or supports the people that aren't supporting you. And so I'm in a luxurious position that Madison and Jessie are not in, and I can just stop associating with them. They're both literally on the front lines, and for whatever reason, they don't have that luxury. And so, or maybe, Madison's taken that luxury because she can, or she refuses not to. I don't want to speak for anybody, but I would love to hear what you have to say about that, Chantelle, because I think it's an important piece. At some point, we have to use the discernment that we're given.
Sorry, Carmen, I just missed the last sentence there. My internet jammed a little bit. Just repeat your last sentence there. Sorry.
I was just curious what your thoughts were on the same subject.
I think it is such an important, again, it is such an important topic. I think it's from when I've started having Jessie on the show, and as you well know, I think I was probably one of the first 2 or 3
Yeah.
shows that was
Yeah.
interviewing her going back 2 years. So she really brought out a lot of information and stuff like that. Jessie was always very, and always has been very open and very honest about the fact that I can't give you more information than what I'm giving you. I can
Right.
only give you things in stages. But I
Right.
completely understand what you're saying. It's like we're in this situation, it's like Jessie with Madison, and of course, supporting Timothy Homseth. It's very difficult for us in this situation to see, well, how is that even possible, maybe, you know, and then immediately
Yeah.
have a judgment on it. But I think when we spoke about that exotic fruit garden and how many fruits and weeds, and one doesn't quite know which is the fruit and which is the weeds yet, that is such a world that is not my reality. As
Yeah,
you say, I'm used to picking carrots out the ground and eating them. You know, that's like what I'm a farm girl. That's what we did, kind of thing. So my point is that yes, I do understand that that is very upsetting, and I do understand that that can cause obviously a lot of friction in the situation. I would just like to say, I would love it if all of us could stand back and just say, let's take a breath. A lot is happening behind the scenes that we may not see or may not understand or may not know yet, but then pray that God reveal that.
Yeah.
And that we can find a way that the truth sets us free and that the truth is revealed so
Yes.
that we do know what we're dealing with.
And
I'm
still
also,
in the process. Yeah.
yeah, I'm a great believer in not forcing things. And I'm a
Yeah.
great believer in speaking your truth. And also, when that moment comes up to assert yourself, as Madison, you did tonight, I highly commend you for that. Broke down a lot of barriers and just allowed us to speak freely, allowed our audience to be part of this conversation, and allowed us, because this is kind of the conversations we often have behind the scenes, right? So actually allowed us behind the scenes as to what is happening in our team. We're a great team together. We hold hands, we support each other, we joy, you know, we really do. Sometimes, like in every family, we're going to have our differences. We're going to sort them out. We're not always going to agree on things. But that's what it is to be mature, adult, and to be able to express your truth.
Yep.
And I think, as Jesus said, the truth shall set you free.
And the truth always comes out no matter what. It will not stay a lie. And so anyone that's hiding anything, the truth's going to come out.
You better believe it. And on that note, I'd like to actually share something that came out in my situation in this past couple of weeks. I've had such a crazy few weeks. I put my cat down this morning, 17 years old. So that was quite an emotional day. Yeah. But if you guys have been hearing anything about what my story is, basically my partner, who I was with for 7 years, was killed in a hijacking, or what was made to look like a hijacking. I always knew that it was someone he knew. I always knew that, but I also know the night that they were out, the person that actually pulled the trigger was friends with people that they knew. So they were all in one. So it was a little bit confusing to me. But what came out, I think, in the past 2-3 weeks now, is that he was actually taken out in a hit. And I understood that.
Wow.
Yeah. And it happened on the 12th of December, 96. So it's like 25 odd years ago, somewhere around there now, I think. So it sounds like a long time ago, but I can tell you, it feels like yesterday. I still remember the way he smiles and smells and whatever. And it's not a longing thing. It's just a memory of someone I shared many happy years with, you know. I understand now, because it had to do with the secret societies. If I had been given that information then, I would not have understood it. And it just shows how God works. 25 years later, I knew that there was something unfinished, and something in me knew. And, you know, I also saw on a more personal level, we can talk about it on another show sometime, how that affected the rest of my relationships. Because until I was sure about what happened, I couldn't move on completely in my heart. So it was revealed to me that whatever I suspected was true. And it was also revealed to me that it was via his best friend who betrayed him. And he worked for a very big engineering company. He was an engineer, very, very bright guy. They wanted him in the societies, basically. He went in for a few meetings and talks and stumbled on something that he shouldn't have, didn't want to get in, retracted, and then he was taken out, basically. So that's quite a shocking, uncomfortable truth to come to terms with.
Yeah.
It kind of took me back to when it happened, but I was extremely grateful at the same time because God showed me the truth. And in that moment, I was able to get closure on so many things I didn't get closure on before, and I didn't even know that I didn't have closure on them. And in the past month, it's all been revealed to me. And today, with my MEEEEE cat leaving, I knew that was the last of that leaving. So it's when we choose to look at things through the eyes of God and what God's plan is for us, we can only grow through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was studying in the Bible the other day, and I was like, I've never looked up the definition and the etymology and the Hebrew for the word grief. And I was blown away because it supported the way I feel about grief. And I feel, it is my opinion, that as we grieve, we go away from God, away from understanding, away from, and some people get really caught up and they go through the valley of death. And instead of going through the valley, they hang out in the valley of death. And they all go around and they build a whole kingdom in there. And it actually means the process of returning to God.
Yes, absolutely.
Isn't that so cool? I was so pumped when I read that. I can't even tell you. And I feel like if we could understand, like you watched, what's it called? Simba, what's it? The Lion King.
The Lion King.
The circle of life, it really is a thing. And now your cat gets to be Stardust again and, contribute to your garden, or I don't know where you're putting her, or what's going on.
My garden.
Yeah.
Can I tell you even a story? How funny is this? So when we decide to bury him, my mom says to me, now Oscar, her little Jack Russell, she had to put him down in 2019. So she had his ashes. So she said, I want to put Oscar's ashes with MEEEEE. And I said, fantastic. And then she had the little box, and on there was the date on which Oscar was cremated. And it was the same day as MEEEEE's birthday. How incredible is that? So it's just amazing how these things all just come together, and they're now happily buried outside my bedroom window. I'll see them every morning when I wake up, so it's beautiful.
Yes, I thought it was really cool. And so it's just good to hear that when, especially when you're in the midst of grief. I always tell people to be very, very careful about their initial thoughts around any loss that you have, because those are the ones that will echo through time. And to honor with thinking beautiful thoughts instead of, oh, it's my fault. Like so many parents, especially when their children die, they figure out ways that they were the cause of it. And it's very dangerous because you can get stuck in a loop of thinking those things. And I just encourage everyone, the moment of loss, when we want to lose it the most, is when we probably need to really be as honest as we can. Like, is it really true that I killed my son? No, it really isn't true that I killed my son, you know. And death date and death rate, I think, is up to God. And that's why people are like, aren't you afraid to talk to Madison, or aren't you afraid to, you know, interact with Jesse? Or, you know, I mean, I'm serious. People ask that, and it's a legitimate question. I'm not going to lie. But no, I'm not, because I believe that God restrains the enemy, you know. And so if being friends with Madison, you know, puts me out, then I want Madison never to go, oh my God, I killed her. You know, you're not that powerful.
I'd be like, I'm gonna hunt down your killer, and then better watch out.
But I mean, the whole thing is like, you know, death rate, death date, it's all up to God. He either restrains or does not restrain the enemy, and it is divine and perfect. And we have to start looking at death as incredibly beautiful as birth.
That's why we can't live in fear anymore. You know, Beth, I lived in fear for so long because they kept saying they'd kill me. I get threats all the time, and I'm like, I'm not going to live. God knows I'm going to die. Like, you know, hopefully it's quick, but, you know, he knows when I'm going to die, and that's it. And I'm going to just live my life moving forward. And it's amazing that after so many years, Chantelle, you got the closure, because that's just, you know, like you hold on to that. And so now it's like you kind of let it go and then be free to move on to the next chapter.
Absolutely. And it's so weird that, and that's why I say, you know, these are things that when hindsight is always, we get wise in hindsight, right? So hopefully it makes us wise to present and future sight as well, so we can make better decisions when we learn from the past. Right. But it's really been amazing in terms of just seeing how, and when it happened, it was like my heart knew that something was not right about that. And so that part of my heart could not belong to someone else. And that was what I sadly, and although I had another very strong partner, Dominic, we had a beautiful relationship. Obviously, it didn't end well, but I also understand now, otherwise we wouldn't have ended it. But I understand that was because that part of my heart was not free for me. And it's not about belonging to another. It's more about what I can give of myself within the relationship. And that was not all there. So, of course, I experienced deception, right? Yeah. And every time you try and blame another for the deception they create, I see that was where my deception was lying. And that's where I say, when we go and see the truth of that, God sets us free, you know? And then it's amazing. And we get the answers, we get the realizations, we get the understandings. We don't have to go and sit with someone, or a fortune teller or a priest or a oracle or whatever to tell us that. You get the answer in your heart, and you know it right there and then, and nothing's going to change that. There's nothing more true than God's voice. That's for sure.
You're the real Christian.
Yeah, she really is. It's so I can't stand the Christians or whatever, because they're such religious spirits, and I'm like, ma'am, you're light years ahead of people that have gone to church for 30 years. It's crazy.
I mean, actually, Madison cracked me up earlier today. We were on the phone, and she said something about what did you call them? Satanic pastors.
Satanist pastors. I was like, they're just Satanist pastors is what they are.
And it's true. You know, they're teaching people those lies mixed in with a bunch of truths that actually make them go out and attack people who are doing great things. And who cares if they're not there yet? That's another thing that I would like to have a chat about sometime is, you know, why everyone is so intent on controlling the beliefs of somebody else, and they don't trust God to do this. And let me tell you, no one brought me to God but God.
That's right. That's a 2-hour show, Carmen. maybe 3.
4 hours is not going to be there. 4 hours is not going to be there. So
all the credit for bringing me really, really deep, because she made me so aware of how real and dark the enemy is.
Yeah. Wow. Ladies, It has been such a beautiful pleasure to have you with me this evening. I know it's my Friday night, so it's just so fun. And I know you've got the rest of your Friday to live and enjoy, and we've paved the way for you, so it's going to be a beautiful day. And it's a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. Thank you, thank you, thank you, beautiful, beautiful woman, for joining me. So I'm not sure if you would like to end off each with just something to end off with. Madison, I'll start with you.
You know what? Just pray for discernment in anybody you watch or follow. I mean, you really should be questioning everything. And I mean, I'm going to say this a million times over. People, take a fast from social media and who you follow and go get to know God, because that's the only way you're going to know who is on the side of good and who's on the side of evil. And if you have a question about it, walk away from that person for a while and ask God to show you. He'll show up, but just don't stop asking. That's why people control. Stop asking everyone else what they think of a certain individual or someone that's like us, and it's honest. Just ask God and let him come and answer your questions for you. So, and Chantelle and Carmen, and I love Jessie too. I love all three of you ladies. I just appreciate it.
Absolutely. Likewise.
Yeah, I'm just impressed with you and Jessie having that public conversation, and it might not have been her choice, but I think that Jessie handled that like so beautifully. And I said earlier that it was putting her on the spot, but the more I think about it, the more I just think it's the only way you can continue to love somebody is if you are able to find out what they're doing. If you're married to somebody and he's not telling you why he's best friends with somebody and that's a neighbor, it knocks you off center. And so I think it has to happen, and I know it sucks, but it doesn't mean that we can't do it with every grace and mercy possible, and giving everyone the benefit of the doubt that everything that we can give them, because we really don't know. We don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is really, again, going back to exactly what we're saying, the discernment, right? And just prayer and just sitting with God, sitting at the feet of God, and just asking to reveal whatever you feel you need to have revealed for your own purposes, and not because you want to go and slay that person. God's not going to give you the truth if your intention is to go and slay that person. Understand that you're not going to be getting the truth from God in that way. Let's understand that. If you want to have it for your own understanding, your own growth, your own discernment, whatever, God will give it to you then, not to hurt someone else ever. So let's just remember that. Thank you so much. Yay. God bless you all. And guys and girls, thank you so much. I know there's been a lot of comments, and thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your comments. Thank you for holding the space for us all through tonight. I really appreciate you all. God bless you. Take good care. See you very soon. Cheers.